give it a few seconds. Okay. Okay. Hello, everyone. Hello. Welcome to our town hall webinar session. My name is Lynn Stevens. I'm with the Ohio Department of Transportation. I'm one of 3 regional outreach managers with ODOT, and we are so excited to be here with you today. We are using a new platform we haven't used before, Microsoft Teams Live. So we're excited about that. And we have practice, so hopefully the technology glitches will be at a minimum. We have IT support as a backup as well. And so thank you for your patience in advance, but hopefully it will run very smoothly. Today, as you know, we are hosting the town hall webinar session highlighting OSHA regulations and just introducing OSHA staff here to our business community. And as you know, ODOT, and what we're covering today are basically updates from OSHA. So programs, current initiatives, compliance assistance, and construction industry outreach. As you know, ODOT is responsible for maintaining the state's interstate system, state routes as well. So as you see the cones throughout the state, you know it's construction season, but everything is going to make everything better. So thank you for your patience as usual during our summer construction season. ODOT's mission is to provide easy movement of goods, of people and goods from place to place. And to do that, we will take care of what we have, make our system work better, improve safety, and enhance capacity. I am with the Division of Opportunity, Diversity, and Inclusion, and we're a relatively new division at ODOT, being established in 2015. At our helm, our head is Lauren Purdy, our Deputy Director. We have 4 offices within the ODI division: the Office of Access and Equity, led by Kim Watson; the Office of Business and Economic Opportunity, led by Deborah Green; the Office of Civil Rights Compliance, led by Katie LaPlace; and our Office of Outreach, where I am and my 2 colleagues, Julita Stoltz and Lisa Washington. And our interim administrator is Deborah Green, as we work to replace our former administrator, Terry Bowden, many of you may know. In our division, we are charged with providing educational opportunities, explaining how to do business with ODOT for small businesses who are new to ODOT and are interested in doing business with ODOT. We hold workshops, we hold webinar sessions. In person has been, of course, until COVID, and now we're figuring out this world of webinars. So this is our first in a series of webinars, and we'll be sending out information on our upcoming webinars. But as the map here you see on your screen will show, I'm Lynn Stevens. I come from East Ohio, and for the moment, helping out with the Northeast region, where Maria DeVilla was our former manager. Lisa Washington is our Northwest Ohio Regional Outreach Manager, and Julita Stoltz is our Southwest Regional Outreach Manager. If you're in Northeast Ohio, we're all stepping in to help, but just to let you know, we are working to fill that position, hopefully in the near future as well. But reach out to any of us if we can be of assistance to you. And with that, we have Melissa Linton, who is our presenter today. And Melissa is with the Department of Labor, OSHA's office. She began working for OSHA in August of 2001. She became the Compliance Assistant Specialist for the Columbus area office in October 2011. As a Compliance Assistant Specialist, She performs outreach, training, and works with companies and industry groups as a part of OSHA's cooperative programs. She works specifically with OSHA's Alliance, Strategic Partnership, and Voluntary Protection. She previously worked as a compliance officer for 10 years, specializing in industrial hygiene and construction and general industry. She's a graduate of Ohio University with a Bachelor's of Science in Biological Sciences and a Master in Business Administration from Ohio Dominican University. She received her certification as an occupational health and safety technologist in 2005. So with that, I'll turn it over to Melissa Linton. Thank you very much for being here, Melissa. And you can take it from here.
Thank you, Lynn. Let me switch over. Oops, wrong. Let me try this again. Hold on. Good morning. I believe you can see my screen. Again, my name is Melissa Linton. I am out of the Columbus OSHA office. Again, I do the compliance assistance for the office. There are two of us in Ohio, myself in Columbus, and then now we have Todd Jensen, who's up in our Cleveland area. He replaced Julie Weiss, who retired in March. So some of the things I want to cover today. I'm having technical, there we go. I'm going to cover Bureau of Labor Statistics and OSHA Region 5 statistics, specifically fatality and injury data that pertain mostly to the construction industry. The presentation today is going to focus on construction industry and those hazards and standards that relate to the construction industry. I'll be covering the emphasis programs that are current, both the national ones and our local ones, and I'll briefly cover what an ocean inspection may look like and the process that we do, our compliance staff does with that. And then I will be talking about outreach events and compliance assistant resources.
And excuse me, Melissa, if I may jump in. This is Lynn Stevens again, everyone. If you have a question, just want to encourage you to use the chat box with your questions throughout the presentation. You can open up the questions. And so as you pick up a question, feel free to type it in so you don't forget it. And then again, we'll get to the questions through the end. Excuse me, thank you.
Yes, just I think Lynn, you were cutting in, but if you can put your questions in the chat box, we will answer those at the end of the presentation at that time. So OSHA's mission, we are continuing to ensure safe and healthful working conditions for working men and women. Every year, we continue to see around 4,500 Americans die from workplace injuries and perhaps possibly 50,000 workers dying from illnesses from workplace exposures that contributed to their illness. And millions of workers continue to seriously have non-fatal injury and illnesses annually. In 2018, the Bureau of Labor Statistics data had around 5,250 employees who died on the job. Those included about 1,000 self-employed, which you can see here in the red on this chart, and then the blue are wage and salary employees. And wage and salary employees are around 4,200 employees in 2018 that died on the job. And in the last several years, we've pretty much stayed around the same in terms of number of worker fatalities. Now, some of the differences, though, with the Bureau of Labor Statistic data and then OSHA data is some worker fatalities we do not investigate. We do not investigate worker fatalities that happen over the road and in other specific areas we just don't investigate. Our regulations don't cover. This chart is another chart from the Bureau of Labor Statistics. And one of the things I really wanted to note was that construction, you can see on this chart, construction is the second industry occupational group that has the highest fatal work injuries. And specifically, construction had about 1,000 of those 4,200 fatalities in 2018. About a fourth of those, 25%, were construction workers, and their work fatal rate is 12.2 for every 100,000 employees. And the next one down, the third one, the service one, their rate actually is 3.4. So when you really look at it, construction has a very high fatality rate at 12.2, and the third one below, this next one below them is at 3.4. So there is quite a difference there. Another thing just to point out is one of the things OSHA really looks at when we're on a construction project, we're going to look at what's called the fatal four. We're going to be looking at fall hazards, struck by hazards, electrical hazards, and caught between hazards. Specifically, the reason for that is, as you can see in this data from Bureau of Labor Statistics, and again, this is 2018 calendar data, those are the top four fatal events that workers are continuing to be exposed to, and we're seeing fatal injuries from those. And if construction companies could focus on those four areas on their projects, we could eliminate and save worker lives by focusing on those hazards. Moving on to OSHA Region 5. So Ohio sits in OSHA's Region 5 area. There are 3 federal states in our area: Ohio, Wisconsin, and Illinois. And what I mean by that is we fall under the OSHA federal OSHA safety and health regulations. And in there, we are a federal agency here in Ohio. So we follow the safety and health OSHA federal regulations. The 3 other states are state plan states. That means their state runs their OSHA program in that state, and that is Michigan, Minnesota, and Indiana. So on this slide, you can see currently in calendar 2020, we have had, on the federal level, we've had 125 fatalities. The same time last year, we had 54. Now, obviously, COVID-19 is playing into some of that, why the numbers are so much higher. And you can see in the fatalities by event and industry sector that construction, we've had 13 fatalities in Region 5, again, and you can see the fatal events on that. The trenching, we have had 1 trench fatality currently in the calendar year 2020. We have seen an uptick in trenching fatalities in the last couple of years, and I'll be going into our trenching initiative further down. And then further down in the right-hand corner, you can see where we have seen the fatalities. The blue is the federal state, so Ohio would be included in that number. We've averaged about 125, 120 in the last several years of fatalities that OSHA investigates. This pie graph shows the federal states and what number of worker fatalities we had in calendar year 2019, so last year. So Ohio had 51 fatalities that OSHA investigated. And this is just a larger version of that slide that had the Region 5 fatalities. Again, we've seen the number of fatalities. We average over 100 fatalities in Region 5 for the last several years. And one of the other things, so going back to that slide, actually the Ohio one, just to give you an idea also, Ohio in fiscal year 2020, we've had 46 fatalities. 12 of those were construction, and 6 were related to falls from elevation, and 1 was actual trench fatality. So those are the ones we are focusing on, and I'll be getting into some information and compliance resources for those areas. So OSHA has what's called national emphasis programs, where we are focusing on a high hazard industry or a fatal hazard, such as trenching. So the ones in red I just wanted to highlight are ones that pretty much pertain to construction industry. So if you have trenching, excavating job tasks on your projects, you really need to be looking at the information on trenching and excavation. And then currently we do have a new emphasis program on the crystalline silica. That standard became enforceable about in 2018. And so we now have a new emphasis program targeting silica exposures on construction and general industry work sites. The local emphasis programs are more specific to the local areas, so they can be specific to our region. They could be specific to the area office if they're seeing a trend in specific areas and they want to focus on. That's what a local emphasis program is. Ohio and Region 5 have had a falls in construction and general industry emphasis program for quite some time, and we continue seeing fall hazards related to that. So what that emphasis program is if we see or get called about workers on top of a roof or workers in a JLG and they're not tied off, we will go out and check on that because we do consider a high hazard for being related to falls in construction. And the rest of these don't necessarily pertain to construction, but I did want to highlight that falls in construction, again, continues to be one of the leading things that we will get called out on and have compliance staff go and check on and open an inspection with projects that have workers exposed to fall hazards. So just a couple of reminders in case folks have not, had the experience of going through an OSHA inspection. The Occupational Safety and Health Act authorizes OSHA's compliance staff to conduct workplace inspections at reasonable times, meaning we're going to inspect during your working hours. We're not going to come after hours. We do inspect without advance notice, except in rare circumstances such as an imminent danger, meaning there's an immediate threat to life. We will try to get workers removed from that situation right away. But again, compliance staff they're called compliance safety and health officers. They will come on site and they will talk to you about why they're there. And I'll go through that in a second. Some of the things that causes an OSHA inspection, we have limited staff in my office alone in Columbus. We have 14 compliance officers, so we do not have the resources to go out and inspect every job site in our area. So we are prioritizing. Our first priority is imminent danger. Those type of things are workers in an open trench and it's without any kind of cave-in protection. We're going to send somebody out right away and open that inspection. The second one is related to worker fatality on the job site or a catastrophe where 3 or more employees are hospitalized. Those are required to be reported to OSHA, but we will go out on those right away also. Our third one is any type of complaint, safety or health complaint, or referral from another agency. We will prioritize that on our third level. And at the bottom is our emphasis programs. If we have the time and the resources, we will then do inspections related to those high hazard industries or high hazard rates. So just to give you an idea of what happens on an OSHA inspection, the compliance officer will show up on your project. They will try to go to the trailer or whoever they believe is in charge of the project and present their credentials. They are credentials that has their name, their picture, and says compliance officer on it. So they are official credentials. They will then sit down and talk to you about why they are there. Were they called out because of a complaint? Are they out there related to a emphasis program? Either way, they're going to talk to you about why they are coming on site. They're going to walk through your project. If there are specific complaint items, they will need to see those areas specific to those complaint items or that emphasis program. During that walkthrough, they may also interview employees. Employees are interviewed in private, meaning away from their managers. Those are confidential. They're not shared with the managers there on site. But just be aware that that may happen. Some of the things I would encourage is if a compliance officer takes photos of specific things, that you also take photos of that so that you have the photos that they also took. At the end, they will do a closing conference with the management to let them know what hazards they saw on site and what potential citations could be related to that. At that time, they will let you know what happens if you do receive citations, and then to also encourage you to fix and abate any citations that you eventually receive, because there could be a follow-up inspection if that does happen. One of the things to really focus on, if you're wondering, hey, how do we stay compliant? Where do we even start and make sure that we're compliant with OSHA's regulations, is looking at where is OSHA finding violations. This is our top 10 violations of construction, specifically related to our fiscal year 2019 last year, and these are specific to the construction industry. So I would look at these and really determine whether or not you have any of this type of equipment, or you use fall protection on your job sites, and make sure that you are complying with those regulations. So the number one continues to be fall protection, related to, again, to fall hazards. Duty to have it, meaning that they did not have fall protection on the job site provided. Scaffolding, ladders, having proper working ladders, training related to how to use the fall protection. Face protections tends to be hard hats and safety glasses, safety and health provisions, head protection actually that's related to hard hats. And excavation is trenching related specific, aerial lifts, and then fall protections. But again, this is just a starting point for you to take and to look at whether or not you have any of this on your job site, and to look at those specific standards to see if you're compliant with it. So one of the big initiatives that OSHA currently has is our OSHA Trench Safety Initiative. We are continuing to do outreach and provide information to excavating, trenching contractors. We want to increase safety awareness. We want to reinforce the value of using protective measures specifically related to sloping, benching, shoring, and shielding. And we want to prevent future trenching injuries and fatalities. They are preventable fatality with cave-in protection. So we want to make sure that all contractors know that you do not need to go into an unsafe trench. There's ways to protect you. So why did OSHA start this OSHA trenching initiative? We started seeing an increase of fatalities in trenching, specifically seeing, in 2015 to 2018, we saw an average of 17 trenching fatalities. Specifically in Ohio, we went many years without a single trench fatality. And then in the last 2 to 3 years, we have seen several trenching fatalities. And pretty much all of them are related to not having cave-in protection. So where are we seeing these trenching incidents happening? For the most part, 53% of those you're going to see, we've seen them at single family or duplex dwelling construction, pipeline construction, and highway, street, and road. That takes over half of the fatalities we've seen in the last 5-6 years. Are all related to those types of construction. So if you are doing projects related to that and trenching is part of your process, you really need to look at what are you doing and what kind of cave-in protection you are providing your workers there. So why do workers continue to get injured in trenches? These are the 3 major areas we have seen related to our trench fatality investigations. Lack of soil analysis, knowing what type of soil you are working in and knowing the type of protective system you need to have in place for that soil analysis. And then lack of a competent person on site. So there's no one on site who understands the regulations and understands cave-in protection systems and how to use them properly to protect employees. So if you can focus on those 3 areas, you will be coming pretty much in compliant with the trenching and excavation standard. So where are we seeing violations on excavation work or trenching hazards? These are the main areas. They much relate to what I've talked to already related to trenching and excavation. Protection of employees in working in those excavations, means of egress, meaning how do you get in and out of that trench, providing a ladder where it's required, protection of employees from loose rock or soil coming down in on them in the trench, Having that competent person doing a daily inspection of the excavation, knowing the hazards, the atmosphere or weather conditions that may affect your excavation is something you need to be looking at. And then where the competent person finds evidence, of a possible cave-in, how do they pull people out? Do they have the authority to do that? And then protecting that trench related to water accumulating in the bottom of that trench. One of the tools we have with the trenching initiative is our emphasis program on trenching and excavation. And one thing to note, it came out in 2008, towards the end of 2018, is that compliance staff will stop on all trenches that have workers in them. That does not necessarily mean that they see a hazard. It means that meaning like they see a violation of the trenching standard. It means they see workers in the trench and they're stopping to talk to whoever is in charge of the project and talking them through and seeing if they have, at the point that they are at with that trench, are they doing it safely and correctly? And what are they going to, if they aren't necessarily deep enough for a cave-in protection, what will they be doing later on if they are going deeper? So again, it doesn't mean that there is a violation they observed. It means that they saw a trench with workers in it and they're just stopping to talk to the workers on that site. We do have a lot of resources related to trenching. The trenching webpage is a pretty good place to start. It has a lot of good information. It has, there's the Slope It Short, Shield It stickers that you can provide to your workers and to remind them that they need to work safely and to be using those cave-in protections. There is a Protecting Workers in Trenches poster. There's also videos that remind workers of how to be safe in trenches. These are more of those resources that you can find on that web page. But again, there's a lot of resources out there on our website. All of them are free and all of them you can download from the website to use in your training to your workers. Another resource out there that the Ohio Bureau of Workers' Compensation has put out when they saw a rise also in the trenching fatalities in Ohio is the trenchsafetyohio.com. There you can find resources that they have developed and also safety grants. If you're a smaller employer and you're needing some help with paying for that cave-in protection, you would contact Ohio BWC and talk to them about that. Moving on to another new area, or I shouldn't say necessarily new, but more information has been put out on it from OSHA, is our respirable crystalline silica standard. That standard came for construction specifically, came into meaning compliance, I should say, towards the middle of 2018. Pretty much the entire construction silica standard became enforceable by OSHA, again, the middle of 2018. So it's been about 2 years now that we have had the standard fully in place for employers to be complying with. But again, just some reminders, it does have a new permissible exposure limit and an action level. There are specific requirements related to medical surveillance, specifically for construction there, how you're going to do methods of compliance, whether you're going to do sampling or you're going to follow the table 1 tasks on it. But again, that standard is fully enforceable. OSHA came out with an emphasis program, again, targeting silica hazards in February this year. Again, it contains a list of targeted industries. We target by your North American Industrial Classification Code. So if you're a site prep contractor or electrical contractor, we look at your industry classification code. We have been doing outreach activities, letting contractors know about the silica standard and specifically their responsibility under that standard. And we started enforcing the standard, all of it, in May of this year. So some specific construction industries that are targeted in that emphasis program are building construction, building finishing contractors, utility system construction, highway, street and bridge, and land subdivision. Now, specifically, obviously, silica is not a hazard for all construction. However, if you are, crushing, cement work, or doing anything related which may have silica in that process, where you may be creating a dust, you're going to fall under this standard more than likely. If you need further information on it, feel free to contact me and I will get that for you. But another thing that just recently came out is what OSHA issued a respirable crystalline silica directive. So directives are how OSHA tells its compliance staff to do an inspection. And this one specifically relates to enforcement of the silica standards. So it provides guidance on the enforcement of the silica standards and the requirements within those standards. And it also will provide more clarity on specific areas that OSHA, how they're going to be enforcing those areas. Specifically, the directive does look at alternative exposure control methods when they don't necessarily fully comply with Table 1. It also spells out some multi-employer situations, which does happen in construction. And then how do we also look at temporary workers if you have those on your site? There are a lot of great resources also on our website for silica. There is what's called a small entity compliance guide, where OSHA actually in that publication goes through the entire standard and how to comply with it. It does have a sample exposure control plan in there and other sample documents needed to comply with it. The other thing OSHA has put out is YouTube videos and all the Table 1 tasks, and it talks about specifically things to look at and reminders on those specific tasks on how to comply with that. There's also a great FAQ for the silica standard also on our website, both for construction and general industry, but it really answers a lot of the most common questions related to the standards. And lastly, this is the Silica OSHA Safety and Health Topics page, where you can find all information related to the silica standard and documents and publications that are out there that OSHA has put together to help employers comply with that standard. Just some reminders on record keeping reporting. You are required to report all workplace hospitalizations, amputations, and loss of an eye within 24 hours to us. And a reminder, you're also required to report any type of worker fatality or hospitalization of workers, 3 or more, to us within 8 hours. You can call the nearest OSHA office during our business hours are 8 a.m. to 4:30 p.m. You can also call the 24-hour OSHA hotline here on the slide here to report it. And you can also, and if you can't get to a phone, you can report it online, and there is a reporting form online at OSHA.gov. Some things to remember when you do have a worker, let's say a worker hospitalization, is you have 24 hours to report it, so take your time. If you don't know the information yet, don't report it right away. Give yourself the 24 hours you're allowed to have. Some things we're going to ask for is your business name, the name of the employee affected, location and time of the incident, and a brief description of the incident. We'll also want a point of contact, and we're asking for email addresses to be able to contact you online now. There are a lot of also resources for record keeping and reporting on our website. You can download the OSHA poster on our website. All the 301s, the logs are all on the website you can download. You can report your fatality or your severe injuries to us online, and also submit your OSHA 300-day summary every year. So moving on. So OSHA Region 5, we have several big campaigns still going on, or coming up, I should say, that I would encourage you to participate in this year. Just a reminder, we have had quite a hot summer. So far we have not had any, as I'm aware of, worker fatalities or hospitalizations related to the heat. However, we have gotten complaints from employees about having heat and not being provided water or areas to get out of the sun. So just remember that, heat is something we recognize as a hazard, and you do want to be aware of that with your workers. Again, heat will sicken thousands of workers, and we do see fatalities every year with hot summers. But our campaign is really to educate employers and workers on the dangers of heat. You can find out signs and symptoms and information to train your employees on our website at the OSHA.gov heat. We also have developed OSHA and NIOSH, I should say, developed a heat app that you can download to your phone, and it will look at the heat conditions and give you the heat index and suggestions on what to do specific to your area where you're working at. Coming up in a few weeks, we have our Safe and Sound Week. It is a nationwide event. It's recognizing workplace safety and health programs and giving information and ideas on how to keep America's workers safe. It's related to the 3 areas of a comprehensive safety and health program. The management leadership, is management on board? Is safety a priority for management? Worker participation in your safety program, and then finding and fixing hazards. It's easy to participate in our Safe and Sound Week. You just need to sign up on the website, promote your event, whether it's having a stand down or having taking time one morning to inspect your harnesses or inspect any type of equipment to be sure that they are safe and compliant, and then come back and recognize your participation in our Safe and Sound Week by coming back to the website and getting a certificate of participation. The other thing we have come, I'm not sure if most of you know, but we typically have our National Safety Stand Down in May. This year it was postponed, and it is now scheduled for September 14th. It is a week where we're asking employers to take a moment, stand down, and focus on fall hazards and reinforce the importance of fall prevention. We want employers and employees to recognize that fall hazards are number one cause of fatal injuries in the construction industry. And so to take the time and put the effort into, again, recognizing those fall hazards and how is the project ensuring that you're complying and keeping workers safe from those fall hazards. Reminder that falls can be prevented. You just need to plan ahead. You need to provide the right equipment for the right task that you're doing and train everyone on how to use that equipment safely and correctly. And some more general compliance assistant resources we have available is our sign up for our OSHA Quick Takes. It's a free biweekly newsletter that we send to your email. It really gives you information on what's the latest OSHA policy that came out, the outreach events, and anything new with OSHA will come to your email every other week through our OSHA Quick Takes. One of the great things that here in Ohio is we have what's called OSHA's on-site consultation program. It is a small, free program here in Ohio. It is under the Ohio Bureau of Workers' Compensation. They provide consultation services to small and medium-sized employers. They will help you with if you need to develop your safety and health program. They will also help with if you need sampling done, so you know whether or not employees are exposed to a specific chemical hazard. And again, it's no cost, it's confidential, and they will also provide training and technical assistance if you need it. And again, here in Ohio, they are under the Ohio BWC. They are OSHA on-site consultation, and you can reach them at the 1-800-282-1425 to request that consultation. OSHA on-site consultation, 88% of those who have used the service are employers that have 100 or fewer employees. So they do work with small to medium employers, and they would love to help any employer out who wants that help. So specifically in Ohio, I just wanted to put up this slide just to let you know that OSHA in Ohio, we're broken up by county. So the green is my office's jurisdiction area. And you can reach any of the offices. Feel free to call them and ask questions. They all have what's called a duty officer available every day to answer any safety or health questions that you may have. And that was all I had. Thank you again. Feel free to contact me with any questions that you have in the future. I'm available to help in any way that I can. And Lynn, I wanted to hand it back over to you.
Okay, thank you. Let me share my screen here. Thank you, thank you. Okay. All right, there we go. So we will take time for questions here. Melissa, are you able to do the chat box? Or...
Yes, let me see. Will the PowerPoint be made available on the website?
Yes, I think okay. Julie to respond to that. So yes.
Okay. When you say fatalities, what do you mean? When I say fatalities, these are worker fatalities, meaning workers died related to an event on the workplace. And they could have all sorts of, we classify them, we call them fatal events. In falls, exposure is related to illnesses or overexposure to a chemical. So falls, exposure, caught in, struck by, we look at it that way. Scott, I hope that answered your question. Is OSHA doing programmed inspections during the current COVID-19 pandemic? So currently we are triaging inspections. Right now we are focusing specifically on fatalities, those hospitalizations, those severe injuries that are reported to us. So hospitalizations, amputations. In terms of programmed inspections, if we have the resources, we will send somebody out on it. And again, it's the supervision in the office is looking at whether or not we have the resources, if it's specifically only related to a programmed related inspection. I'm not quite sure what, Brenda, you're asking. We don't outsource anything to any project. All of our staff are compliance officers, federal employees, so we don't outsource anything. And maybe Lynn, you can help on this one, but what is ODOT's inspection responsibility versus OSHA's inspectors related to contractors' means and methods?
Okay. ODOT's inspector's responsibility versus OSHA's inspectors. Well, we will be able to get the answer from our construction division. I am not sure. I do know just in pre-con meetings that, you know, it's mentioned that the contractors are responsible for adhering to the OSHA standards and regulations. But for ODOT inspectors specifically, we will reach out and get an answer for that and share it with all the attendees by email. So thank you for that question.
And also just to talk on OSHA side of with that same question is we're looking at, are there any safety and health hazards? And then eventually looking at whether or not there are any OSHA regulations that relate to those. But that's specifically what our inspectors are doing when they're coming on site. In regards to taking the same pictures that OSHA takes, yes, compliance officers may take photos prior to coming on site. The thing I would say is you can ask them if they have done that, and you can ask them to see them. They may let you see them, they may not. That is pretty much up to the compliance officer, but they can at least let you know what they have photos of. But you can ask them. There's no reason you can't ask them to see those photos if they have done it. In regards to the trenching stickers, Greg, my understanding was they were available. If you send me an email, I can find out for you and let you know if there are ones I can get for you, and just let me know how many you need. Andre, yes, slides will be available on the website. Related to silica, silica is a natural rock, or I can't think off the top of my head. But silica, when it's crushed or is made into a powder that becomes airborne and it's breathed into the lungs, it can cause damage to your lung and breathing. And that is why OSHA has a standard out for it. And they actually updated their standards on it to be more stringent on what a worker can be exposed to. But it can cause lung diseases and lung cancers. And so we, again, have the standards out there to protect employees from that. On the hospitalization, so there's actually two things related to hospitalization. So if you, because one, and it's related to when those standards came into compliance, came into being effective. But if you have a catastrophe where 3 or more employees are hospitalized, you have to report that within 8 hours to us. And that's been on the books for many, many years. The newer severe injury report that came out in 2015, that is one where if you do have one employee hospitalized, you have 24 hours to report to us. And that hospitalization on that is related to they are admitted to the hospital. They're not just in the emergency room having diagnostic testing done. But there is a difference between the two, but that's where that difference is. Are all OSHA regulations the same across the board from state to state? If they are federal OSHA state, they're all the same. However, if it is a state that it runs its own OSHA program, there may be some slight differences. They have to have at least as stringent as our regulations, but they may have other standards. Michigan and North Carolina and California tend to have some other, like I can't think of which one specifically, but that one of them has an ergonomic standard. We do not at a federal level have an ergonomic standard, but that's where the differences come in. We continue throughout the pandemic inspecting workplaces. We do have compliance officers that are out doing that. How does OSHA work with PERP, which is the Public Employees Risk Reduction Program participants? The way we will work with PERP is if we receive a complaint and it's related to a public employer, we send that complaint over to them. And they do the same to us. If they receive a complaint that's related to our jurisdiction, they send it over to us on that. Let's see if I have anything else. Information on transportation and material moving. If you want to email me and let me know specifically what information you're looking for, I can try to find that for you. So, just so they're specific. So ODOT is not right. We do not cover ODOT, but we do cover the contractors that are on ODOT projects. If they're a private employer, we cover them. It's just those contractors are going to have ODOT oversight, and they may also have some OSHA oversight on it. So is hospitalization reporting required for 3 employees or for 1? It's required for if you have an employee who's admitted into the hospital, 1 employee, you must report that to us within 24 hours. What is the reporting time frame for an employee who goes to the ER but is not admitted? If you do have an employee go to the ER and they are not admitted and that's all within 24 hours, then you do not have to report that to us. Them going to the ER does not trigger having to report it to us. I think I have answered all the questions. Did you have anything else, Lynn?
We just wanted to thank everyone again. If you have any last minute questions, feel free to go ahead and sneak them in real quick. Otherwise, we'll respond to the other question that was asked. But we got clarification that ODI's not covered by OSHA. ODI is not covered by OSHA, but PERP covers the private contractor. And we will email out to all the registered attendees the PowerPoint information slides. Hopefully we can download the recording as well of this webinar to our website, and we will let you know or send it in the email that we send also if we can do that. So we thank everyone for your attention, for your time. We will be sending out notice for our next webinar, which will be August. We'll have a DBE certification workshop, a general DBE certification workshop, and some other exciting topics to cover: real estate, supplies, suppliers, how to become a supplier with ODOT, consultant services information webinar. So just be on the lookout. We appreciate everyone's attention, your time. If you have any questions, you see our contact information on the screen there. Be sure to write it down and shoot us an email, give us a call, and we'll be happy to answer any additional questions you have. So with that, if Lisa, you don't have anything else, we can just thank everyone, and we'll go ahead and conclude the any last minute questions that come up. Did you see any more, Melissa, before we finally say bye, or no?
I don't see anything else. No.
Okay, great. Well, thank you, everyone. You have a nice rest of the day. And again, reach out to us if we can be of further assistance to you. Have a great day. Thank you. Bye.